Hello and welcome to watchandlearnphotoshop.com. In today's tip, I'm going to show you how to create a little bit of a plasticky effect using Photoshop. So we're going to create a new file. Let's go ahead and make this about 500 pixels wide and 300 pixels tall, so we have enough room to work with. I'm going to hit F on the keyboard to go to full screen mode. There we go. Alright, now I'm just going to write some text on the stage, and for now I'm just going to use a medium gray color for this, maybe a little bit lighter than that, like so. And I'm going to choose the text tool. We'll bring our text size down to about 100, and then let's just type my name on the stage here. Okay, let's move this to the center roughly. Alright, the first thing I want to do here is give this an inner shadow. This is going to give our text a feeling of depth. And the end result here is going to be very similar to the bevel and emboss layer style, except it's going to be much more of a customized look. So first thing we're going to do, like I said, is we're going to give this an inner shadow, or an inner glow actually, that's going to be a dark color, so it's going to look like a shadow. So let's go to our layer styles. So with this text layer selected, I'm going to go to Layer, Layer Style, and Inner Glow. So we've applied an inner glow here. Now we're going to change the color. We don't want it to be this default yellowish color. We want it to be kind of a dark gray. So we'll go down to dark, or medium to dark gray here, and click on OK. And then we need to change our blend mode here from screen, because remember, screen just deals with light colors. If you have your blend mode set to screen, only light colors will show up. We want the dark colors to show up. I'm just going to set the blend mode here to normal. There we go, and we can automatically see a big difference in our text. It already looks like it's got some depth to it. And you might play with the settings a little bit. Actually, the default of 5 or somewhere around 5 or 6 works just fine. And okay, so let's go ahead and click on OK for our layer styles there to apply that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to give this a little bit of highlight in the lower right hand corner of our text. And here's how we're going to do that. Let's create a new layer. We'll double click on that layer name and rename it Highlight. Okay, now I'm going to make a selection out of this text layer, and I'm going to do that by holding on to Control and clicking in the little preview box for that layer. And when we do that, you'll see up here we have our selection made, and now we want to shrink this selection. We want this selection to be a few pixels smaller. So I'm going to go to Select, Modify, and Contract. And we're going to contract this by about 3 pixels. And the amount you contract this here, it just depends on basically how big your file is. If you're using a much bigger, bulkier text, then you might contract this by a little more than 3. But I'm going to choose 3 here. And you'll notice that it has just made these selections a little bit smaller. It's moved them inside the text a little bit. And now we're just going to fill that with white. So I'm going to switch to white as my foreground color here, and in this new highlight layer I'm going to fill that. And a quick way to fill that with your foreground color is just to hit Alt and backspace. And so now our foreground color is filled. Okay, we're still going to keep that selection on the stage. We're just going to switch to our marquee tool now, and we're going to move this selection up and to the left a couple pixels. And once we move that up, we're just going to hit Delete to get rid of everything except for the lower right hand portion of that white that we just filled in. So now I'm going to hit Control D to see what that looks like, and there we go. If we leave it like this, it gives it a very crisp, cartoony look, or we could go in and kind of soften the edges of these a little bit by adding a bit of a blur. So with that highlight layer selected, we'll go to Filter, Blur, and we'll select Gaussian Blur. And then we'll just mess with the settings here until we get something like what we want it to look like. I'm just going to bring this up to about 1 pixel, and you'll notice the edges look a lot softer now. And we'll click on OK. And there we go. We have a basic plasticky looking text. If you want to give it a little more depth, you can add a drop shadow to it. Let's see what that looks like. We'll just double click on our layer styles here for the text layer, and we can just click on drop shadow. Make it stand up a little bit off the stage. Let's go ahead and bring that down a little bit. Let's just make this distance about 2 pixels. so it's real close to the text. And we'll make our size smaller too. Let's make that about 3 pixels. There we go. And click on OK. And there we go. Now if you want to just use this effect like it is and just change the color of your text, we can just go back to those layer styles. I should have just left that open. So we'll double click on our layer styles there for that text layer. And we can just add a color overlay. We'll click on that and you'll see we've changed it to red. And we can change it to, you know, any color we want to. But I'm just going to go ahead and leave that. I'm going to turn that off and click on OK. And that's a very quick and very easy way that you can kind of customize your own bevel and emboss without actually using the bevel and emboss filters. And this gives you a little bit more control over how you want it to look. And that's basically how you create a kind of 3D plasticky text effect.